Hello, I'm the Dark Master, and welcome back to my video game reviews. In today's video game review, we shall be continuing our coverage of the Kirby series, as we shall be covering the 12th mainline game and the 26th game in the series overall. Kirby's Triple Deluxe! Or as it's known in the Japanese original, Hoshinokabi Triple Deluxe. The second game in the modern era of Kirby. This game was the first release for the Nintendo 3DS. Does it end up being good, or is the Deluxe only in name? I played this game a lot and enjoyed revisiting it for this review, so let us now begin the review, starting with that neat developmental history. So there is a lot that we don't really know about this game's development history prior to its first announcement on October 1st, 2013, during the Nintendo Direct at that time. Looking into the game files, though, we see some stuff was changed, such as an unused swallowing Kirby model, some platforms, a toughness Waddle Dee with eyes closed. I'll talk about them more later when I get to the enemies, as well as an earlier design variant of Shadow DDD. Also, the DXs are called EXs in the files, which is something I'll return to in a bit. And lastly, a lot of copy abilities got nerfed, but again, I'll talk about that later when I get to the gameplay. Overall, the development seemed to go relatively smoothly, and the game was released first in Japan on January 11, 2014, next in South Korea on April 17th, 2014, then in North America on May 2nd, 2014, then in the EU on May 16th, 2014, and lastly in Australia on May 17th, 2014. It ended up selling well, with 2.66 million copies sold, and generally got positive reviews. But is that justified? Well, let us find out, as we are now done with this pre-review stuff and can talk about the game proper, starting with that delicious story. The game starts with Kirby stretching, relaxing, fishing, eating, riding a warp star, the usual Kirby stuff. We cut to that night as Kirby sleeps, as something falls to the ground, and we see a large beanstalk grow, lifting Kirby's house and various other parts of Dreamland high into the night sky. Kirby awakes having slept through this whole event and goes over to the king's castle after he almost falls off of his home. The castle also having been lifted into the air. Arriving, he follows a strange arachnid sorcerer named Taranza, who, after effortlessly flinging the king's Waddle Dee guards away, shoots him with magic and kidnaps the poor monarch as Kirby watches and chases after them through several worlds where they will usually summon a boss or do something to cause Kirby to pause. Kirby chases them through Fine Fields, Lollipop Land, Old Odyssey, Wild World, and Endless Explosion before cornering him in Royal Road, the headquarters in Floralia of Taranza's forces. However, here we get several reveals. First, that shooting star/meteor that fell to Dreamland was in reality a seed of the Dreamstalk, which for the record is the name of the stalk that Kirby has been climbing up this whole time. They were sent by the people of the sky, an ancient flower-like race that were the natives to Floralia prior to the invasion of the insect-like Sectrons. Fearing this destruction of his people, Taranza sought out to capture the hero, which Taranza foolishly thought was Dedede, and hypnotizes him, turning him into the infamous masked Dedede, which then attacks Kirby, and even gets more powerful as Taranza uses dark magic to aid the king. Regardless, Kirby defeats the king, knocking him out. Realizing his mistake, he calls upon his queen and asks for forgiveness, who is the real leader of this insectoid army, Queen Sectonia. Angered by Taranza's failure, the queen tosses him aside and fights Kirby herself. After a lengthy battle, Kirby does defeat her, of course, but completely insane by this point. She uses dark magic to fuse with the Dreamstalk and become a plant-like abomination that starts to drain the life of Floralia and Popstar. With the help of the people of the sky, Kirby reaches her and fights it. It turns out to be a very long, grueling encounter, and Kirby almost wins before Sectonia grabs him with a vine. Luckily, he is saved by Dedede and Taranza, who has changed his allegiances after Sectonia became evidently insane. With the help of a miracle fruit, which is an item that I'll discuss in further detail when I get to the gameplay, and using Hypernova, he ends up defeating the Tyrant Queen, restoring the Dreamstalk to normal and saving the day. Taranza and the Sky People help Dedede and Kirby return home before saying goodbye. This is just the main story mode, though. There's also a lot of background lore thanks to the boss bios and the pause screen. You can see it any time while fighting a boss. Indeed, while Kirby Superstar Ultra introduced this concept, which I reviewed before, and Kirby Return to Dreamland did sort of codify it, this game was the first to give each boss one, and not just the last few. Here we learned some really neat stuff, like how Coily Rattler was once a statue revered by the Sky People, or that Paintra is the sister to Draucia from Kirby's Canvas Curse. There's also the background as to why Sectonia went evil, as revealed by Dedede Tor, which reveals that one day Taranza got his beloved queen, the Dimensional Mirror, last seen in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, which I've reviewed before, which corrupted her with its dark magic that may have been the mirror itself or Dark Meta Knight, who yes indeed survived and is back to attack Dedede. Overall, the story is great. Sure, Taranza is perhaps not as directly involved as Magolor, but still makes for a tragic villain who only really wanted to support someone he loved but didn't really love him back. Plus, seeing some elements from the past return in the modern Kirby context is pretty cool. Now let's go on to arguably the most important aspect of any game, the gameplay, and see how well that is handled. Alright, so to avoid repetition, I'll say that the basic gameplay is in essence what was seen in Kirby's Return to Dreamland, so check out that review to know more about the basic foundations of this game. Instead, let us go on to the new stuff and stuff that was altered, starting with the abilities. There are a total of 25 in this game, 4 entirely new ones and 21 returning ones, some of which, like Mike, Crash, Cutter, Sleep, Wing, function as they did in Kirby's Return to Dreamland, so there really isn't anything to say about them. However, others had various tweaks, both large and minor. Parasail now has a slightly altered animation for the Parasail swing, which grants a small hitbox behind Kirby as he pulls out the umbrella. Whip can no longer use the 100 whip slap immediately after any move, which just sort of results in a short gap between attacks. Fighter no longer gets any vertical height when using the moon somersault attack. Bomb has been made kinda slower in throwing bombs, which kinda weakens it. This was done for reasons related to a game mode that we'll talk about later. Ninja has lost its smoke counter move. Hide Guard has been renamed the clone technique and summons a log in place by using the L or R buttons before being attacked. Quad Swag is no longer able to be used midair, and you can now throw knives much quicker than before while on a wall. Fire returned, and it's mostly the same, but all of its attacks are multi-hitting, and the move Spinning Fire Breath and Burning Flames have been removed, but they got two new ones to replace them. Fireball Jump has you, jump while doing a fireball technique, and Searing Burn, which has you do a small explosion of fire. Beam has lost the Revolution Beam technique, but is otherwise the same. Needle loses its rolling needle attack. The needle burst only shoots 5 instead of 6 needles, and the falling spine maneuver can be done by pressing down plus B, summons a large bottom spike, which is a new move. Spark is nearly identical, but lost the Thunderbolt and Lightning Strike techniques. Spear returns for the last time in a mainline game, and it's mostly the same, but has lost the really neat triple throw. Sword has only gained new traits, not lost them. For one, Kirby can now do a sword beam, and not just at full health, but at any health if they raise their sword in the air by holding up on the D-pad for a period of time. This is a reference to the Zelda series. Twister Slash lets you use a spin slash and raise an elevation. Lastly is Hat Thrust, which has you do a gentle down thrust. I really like these dynamic changes. Leaf, however, has been greatly neutered. Only up to 2 leaves can be shot at once using the leaf attack instead of up to 5 leaves from Return to Dreamland. Leaf Dance only bounces enemies in the final hit, though it does do multiple hits now. Ice lost the Ice Ball move. Hammer is back, but loses the triple hammer attack. Wheel is back, not seen since Kirby's Squeak Squad. It's been reinvigorated with new moves like Step Down, which has you dash forwards by pressing B while dashing. Downshift has you bash downwards by pressing the down arrow while dashing in midair. With a rocket start, you do a burst of speed by holding down and dash. And sky wheel is when you jump while doing said technique. Stone returns and it has 3 decent changes. One is the stone uppercut does a lot more damage. If you dash while in the stone form, you can sort of pivot the stone form around a bit to get better looks. It's just a visual thing. You can also slightly move the heavy smash attack to the left or right, very slightly now, instead of it just going straight down. Now let us go on to the new copy abilities. Starting with my least favorite, we got Circus, a very technically erratic copy ability with admittedly a very cool hat. It can do a very energetic somersault by pressing B. Back salt has you jump backwards by pressing B and back. Fire hoop has you jump through a flaming hoop by pressing dash plus B. Ball balance has you balance on top of a big ball, kind of similar to Parasail Swirl, by pressing down plus B. Kirby tosses batons by pressing up plus B. You can set them on fire by pressing B repeatedly while doing said technique. The trampoline maneuver, done by pressing down then up plus B, is basically the high jump attack. The acrobatics maneuver has you press up and B in midair while doing the trampoline. Lastly, by pressing and holding B, you can inflate a balloon that will hurt foes. There's multiple balloon types, but much like stone forms, we'll talk about that later in this video. Next, in terms of my least favorite, is Bell, though I really like this one. Pressing B has you use the ring ding to hit an enemy with a bell. Pressing it repeatedly has him do the ring ding dong technique that hits something with a bell repeatedly. Pressing down in B does a ding final, which has you leap into the air and slam bells in both front and behind of you. A quicker variant is called Quick Finale that can be done by pressing up and then down plus B. Sting Ding is a weaker variant done by pressing down plus B. By dashing and attacking, you toss a bell in the Twin Tinker technique. If you press B, hold, then release, you do the Tinker Melody technique and has some good coverage. It has a unique block that means you take no chip damage, and you can use it both floating on the surface and underwater. It's useful, but does have limits for helping to solve puzzles, as it doesn't really have any elemental effects. Arrow sees Kirby don a Robin Hood type hat. Pressing B has you shoot an arrow. Holding the B has you charge it into a snipe shot. Holding it longer charges it to become a magic star arrow. You can aim the shot upwards or around. Charging or pointing up does a sky shot shown that releases these really neat energy arrows. By dashing, Kirby will slash using an arrow. Jump in the air while dashing and you'll release a volley of arrows. You can hide behind a cardboard cutout, which has multiple varieties I will talk about later. You can move slowly while holding it, as well as shoot out arrows. It's a very fun, if admittedly broken ability, but honestly, the best standard copy ability is the next one, Beetle. In addition to looking like a Japanese rhinoceros beetle, it has a lot of stellar moves, like the horn uppercut by pressing B, a horn flurry, which you do by pressing B multiple times. The rock horn has him impale foes up, and press B leads to this stellar attack that covers a lot. You can hold an enemy by impaling them on your horn, and then do various throw type attacks. Hard Head Slam is a unique ground pound you do with this ability. Even his flight animation is unique. I love this ability. It's a fun time and I always enjoy using it. But as you might have noticed, I said it's the best normal ability. Indeed, there is one more, Hypernova, which is in essence the super abilities seen in the last mainline game. Basically, it lets you do a big suck, and you can use it in a variety of ways. And while that sounds a great deal less varied, that's actually not the case, as you utilize it in a number of different ways against a number of different opponents and obstacles that we'll return to later. It really always ends a level with a sense of awe. In addition to these abilities, this game has new depth to most levels thanks to these 3D warp stars, which allow you to go into the foreground or background. And many enemies can also fire with projectiles from these different, foreground and background areas. There are other items such as the returning food that restores a little health, energy drinks that restore a bit more health, maximum tomatoes that give a full health, 1-ups that give extra lives, star blocks, cannons, and there are 3 variants of cannons, by the way: directional launch cannons that will move between set firing directions. There's the auto launch cannon, which launches automatically, and then there is the tilt launch cannon that you aim using the Nintendo 3DS gyro controls. There's also a sub variant called the rail launch cannon, but it basically functions the same but is linked to a rail. Point stars that now, in addition to the returning ones, come in a green variant that gives 5 points. Also, using the bottom touchscreen, you can hold on to certain items in times of need. The person giving you these assist stars is Bandana Waddle Dee, making a cameo appearance in this game. It is also here that we see the first of several new items introduced in this game. The first of which being a Reviving Tomato, which is a variant of Maximum Tomatoes that will basically revive you if you lose. It only shows up, though, if you fail a boss fight 4 more times, which has never happened to me, not even against the hardest of opponents. So, yeah. There is a 3D helmet cannon which has you fire a continuous series of cannon shots onto a different plane. There is this funny glitch you can do with the bomb ability that has you keep the hat on while you face forward. It's kind of fun. There's the 3D laser bar that puts a long laser that can hit things on the foreground and background. Both are good for a bit of variety. 3D scale, which is basically a series of seesaws that you have to work on in order to pass certain levels. The 3D tilt missile is a device you use to destroy certain objects by shooting a missile that you aim by using the motion controls of the 3DS by tilting left and right. There are these collectible keychains and sunstones, which we'll return to near the end of the video, where we discuss completion requirements. The 3D swap step effectively transports him to a different plane. Miracle Fruit, which gives Hypernova. Timed Dynamite, especially, is basically just a timed explosion. Now this is just for the main mode, for indeed this game has multiple modes. First is the Returning Arena, which as you might expect is a challenge where you fight various mini-bosses and bosses of the story mode with limited healing items. You also get keychains for each victory after the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 9th fights. Much more substantive is that this time the extra mode is called the DD Tour, and you get a chance to control someone other than Kirby. The adventure is slightly shorter as it removes the hypernova segments, plus there are these hidden warp holes that allow you to skip forwards, which speedrunners love to utilize as there is a timer that times your progress in, beating certain levels. In terms of controls, DD plays a lot like Hammer Kirby, but with some minor alterations to help him complete certain puzzles that would be impossible with base Hammer Kirby. His hammer twirl now possesses fire properties, allowing him to lit fuses on cannons, burn foliage, and break ice. He's got a hammer wave, which is a sword beam thing that you do when you're at full health, and you don't lose a hammer after throwing it. And lastly is the hammer arrow shot that functions like the archer ability, which is kind of odd but interesting. I love this mode. It was really fun to play as the king, and there's so much fun in trying to beat it as fast as humanly possible. The harder bosses are really a good challenge, and the addition of two new ones really got me on my feet. Speaking of, then we got the True Arena, which is a rematch against all the harder DX bosses seen in DD Detour, which is a pun based on the king's name and the word detour. But I'll talk about those bosses later on. There's also a final boss unique to the True Arena, but again, we'll talk about that later on. Next, we've got two smaller modes, which are radically different in terms of gameplay from the base game. First is Kirby Fighters, which is in essence Super Smash Bros., but with Kirby and a decently sized health bar. You have 10 copy abilities to choose from: Bomb, Archer, Beam, Sword, Cutter, Fighter, Hammer, Ninja, Paracel, and Whip. All of them function like in the base game and are probably the reason why Bomb was slowed down. There's also a series of items that can show up randomly. These include containers that can release other items, a bomber, which functions like a bomb, crackler is a little cannon that you can shoot your opponents with, food heals, invincibility candy that grants well invincibility. Also, it's in the main game, but it was so rare I barely even remember it. There's dash shoes that make you go faster and jump higher. Gordo ball is something that you can pick up and throw, which becomes a Gordo. There's timed dynamite, which is a timed bomb. There's mint leaf that causes you to shoot out air bullets. Maximum tomatoes that are a full heal. Microphone is basically mic. Lastly is the action star, which can cause a set of 7 random events. These include summoning 8 healing items, giving everyone the dash shoe effect, giving an opponent a temporary slowing effect, making all opponents fall asleep, summon 3 timed dynamites, drop bombs on all other opponents, or reducing everyone to 1 HP. Honestly, that last one's pretty scary, but these all add a level of spice to matches against people. There are 2 sub-modes within this. There's a single-player campaign that sees you fight through 6 rounds against anywhere from 1 to 3 CPU opponents before fighting against Shadow Kirby, last seen in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. He's pure evil here, though, and basically functions as a, you know, identical clone to yourself because he always has the same ability. But the real fun is in the multiplayer mode where you and up to three other players can battle it out. Also, here, unlike the single player mode, is if you're knocked out, you can come back as a ghost, which is very slow, but if you manage to hit someone, you get revived for a second chance at a fight. It's just amazing, and I really think having multiple people is the best way to enjoy this mode, though single player is fine too, if that's all you got. Last of the modes is DDD's Drum Dash. This is, in essence, a rhythm game where you have to move DDD through a stage that is a series of drums. Some are normal, some are small, some are big. Drums that have wings can move back and forth. Fragile ones will break after being used a certain number of times. In terms of controls, it's deceptively simple. As you move just left to right, you press A at various times for jumps that can vary in height. And if you press A while in the apex of the jump, you get a few extra points. This action is called backbeat. And as you have to move very fast, you'll see various sets of enemies you'll have to avoid. If you get hit, you lose a point of health. You have 5, though the last only has 3. And time you get hit, you lose 100 points. However, there are way more ways to get points than lose them, such as score coins that, in addition to the silver ones that give 200 and the gold ones that give 500, that come from Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Now there are bronze ones that just get 50 points. Completing a stage with no damage gets you 1,000 bonus points. Completing a stage with at least 30 seconds left gets you another 1,000 bonus points. Collecting all coins in a level grants you an additional bonus 1,000 points. And lastly, Backbeat Perfect requires you hit the beat of the background music, which is basically hitting A at the midpoint of every jump. Definitely the hardest bonus to get. There are 4 stages, each based on a specific theme. Stage 1 is, of course, Green Greens. Level 2 is Gourmet Race. Level 3 is DDD's theme. And lastly, there's the DX Extra mode, Distant Traveler. I'll talk about the music itself later on, but I have to say that while I am bad at rhythm games, and I wasn't the best at this, I gotta say it was actually really fun to try and get it perfect in these stages. This is the second time I did it, though, so take that as you will. Clearly, it's not something you must do, but both of these last 2 modes got their own standalone games, but that's a subject for a later review. Regardless, the overall gameplay of this game is good, and it is a solid evolution of the fairly solid baseline as seen in Return to Dreamland. I'd even say that the Hypernova is slightly better than the super abilities. But now let's go into the presentation of the game, starting with the most obvious half, the graphics, and see how well it has stood up through the passage of time. Alright, so the game uses the basic design ethos introduced in Return to Dreamland, but I would say that has a level more originality, which is perhaps best seen in the various worlds to explore. Flower Fields, while yes, does have a bit of a green vibes, has a lot of charm to its name due to a higher amount of flowers in it, especially in the fieldy regions of Stage 1 and Stage 3, which also has a howl room. Stage 2 is a very greenish colored cave, while Stage 4 mostly takes place in a sunny forest. Honestly, it's a really great introduction to this game, while the EX stage is admittedly not that much to talk about. Regardless, the second world, Lollipop Land, is a very Candyland type area, especially the first level. The second takes place in a place that is a toy factory where you have to deal with these really odd laser robot objects and a callback to the original Dreamland. Stage 3 has a kind of annoying hand objects that will try and splat you into the wall, while Stage 4 is the first of a series of haunted circuses we'll see throughout this game, and it's very creepy. Stage 6 is okay and has some really cool falling walls. The third world, Old Odyssey, has a real variety of themes. The first two are very canyon like, but with falling pillars and trains. The third level takes place in a gem filled cavern. Stage 4 starts you on a hillside before going up to a cold mountainous region. And then, stage 5 and the extra stages are all really chilly. And that's kind of an interesting way to end a level like this. Wild World is a jungle area that transitions into a haunted fortress in Stage 3, before going further into an Egyptian slash Mayan inspired set of ruins for the remainder of the world. Very esoteric in terms of nature, while the extra stage has you return to the jungle. Endless Explosion is probably the least visually original. It's your typical lava land, but it does have some cool coral like growths in certain areas that give it a kind of a neat charm. Royal Road thankfully avoids the trope of a final world being dark, being instead a very Disney type castle. The first level sees you burst through the main gate and get chased by a tank, as well as seeing the second Hal room. The second stage has you go through an oddly mechanical region before refighting some bosses. Stage 3 has you revisit Hypernova challenges, as well as Stage 4 seeing you face off against the other remaining bosses. Stage 5 has you jump around a bunch of gemstone, and honestly a very beautiful background vibe, though it does kind of remind me of Crash Bandicoot's last level. But it looks way more colorful thanks to it not being on the PlayStation. It also has a last Hal room hidden in here. And there's a sequence where you go hypernova and you basically eat flowery woods, which is just kind of funny. The arena you fight Masked Deity and Sectonian are very cool. And I have to say, I love the sky backgrounds while encountering Sectonia's final form. Really makes the battle seem more epic. This world has two extra stages, though, and they are both amalgamations of past ones. The other modes also have a lot of charm. For example, Detour turns the point stars into his victory emblems. Detour also alters the 1-up to look more like DDD than Kirby, as well as have a unique food item, which is cool. The levels in DDD's Drum Dash also look very cool. Green Greens as well. Green and Gourmet Race has a nice Sunset Fiesta vibe. DDD's theme takes place in a neon fortress. And lastly, Distant Traveler has a really even more beautiful sunrise with a lot of rainbows at the top of the screen. The arenas you fight within during Kirby Fighters have even more charm. Flowerland is a pretty basic one, but it's a good tutorial for learning the moves with no gimmicks to confuse things. Castle Lolo really looks like the fortress seen back in those old games, and you have to deal with Lolo and Lala, who will occasionally be kind of annoying and push a block that you'll have to dodge. Ku's Forest takes place in a forest that really accurately recreates the pastels of Kirby's Dreamland 3. The animal friends will also show up occasionally and randomly from holes and just attack. DDD's arena really is cool in terms of the wrestler vibe. I even like the audience that watches, even if it's one-to-one a recreation of those seen in past games. And DDD will also occasionally show up in these to cause problems. I just think it's a wonderful arena to fight in. Factory Tour draws from Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards and will have these hammer dudes in the background that will occasionally try and slam on the opponents slash fighters. Bubbly Cloud is a very cloudy stage and has Krakow show up occasionally to cause issues. Lastly, there's another dimension, which is this game's final destination, being set in this mostly empty void with no gimmicks at all to distract from pure combat. This game has a lot of little details too that I appreciate. For example, Stone Kirby, in addition to the returning default stone form, Star Block, Mario Block, Kirby Master Hand, Mount Fuji, Macho Statue, and Hal Symbol, has a number of new ones. There is a stone statue of Rick Kai, the animal friends first seen in Kirby's Dream Land 2, a statue of Meta Knight, Bandana D, and King Dedede, the three playable non-Kirby characters from Return to Dreamland, a steel statue of Ultra Sword Kirby, also from that game, a light brown statue of four Kirbys from Mass Attack, a silver statue of Lore Starcutter from Return to Dreamland, a golden statue of Marx and Magalore, a golden statue of Drossia and the Dark Nebula, and lastly, a golden 8-bit Kirby with a star rod. Circus's Balloon Pop also has a variety of forms, some of which are references to other games. One is a dog, another is a flower, one is a heart, one is the Howl logo, one is Nightmare's orb form, one is Magalore, and lastly, one is Meta Knight. The Archability's camouflage technique also has a decent amount of variety. There's a bush, a flowery bush, a short tree, a rock, a star block, the Howl logo, and lastly King Dedede himself, all of which are need and add a little more variety. Overall, the presentation of this game I think is beautiful, and while no doubt maybe it's a little more jaggy due to the 3DS's screen compared to that of a home TV via the Wii, I still think it's a good evolution in the series, and it's arguably more visually unique than that game. Though I guess it has the advantage of that one simply trying to reintroduce Kirby to a new generation. Now let us discuss the second half of the presentation, the music, and see how well that has aged. So this game's OST has a decent selection of music. Starting with the returning stuff, there's a good variety. The mountain theme from Kirby's Adventure comes up in the fourth stage of Flower Fields and has a lot more focus on bass than in the original. The Peanut theme from Kirby Superstar gets two remixes. The first, a very Christmassy variant titled Silver Snow Story, is seen in Old Odyssey Stage 4, and the staff credits theme in A major is also good. There is a remix of Ripple Star's theme from Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, and it's basically the same as in that game, being heard in Stage 5 of Endless Explosions, and it's nice. The Howl Room in Flower Fields see a remix of Welcome to Dreamland, the title screen music for the original Kirby's Dreamland. We hear the mid-boss battle theme from Kirby's Adventure as well. The arena theme returns from Kirby Superstar and is frankly higher in quality than ever before, sounding truly Olympic in terms of scale. The true arena theme sounds a lot cleaner now due to it no longer being crunched by the original SNES, as does Dark Meta Knight's theme. Wood's Wayfarer returns from Return to Dreamland and sounds as good as last time. The Kirby Superstar boss theme served as a mid-boss theme for the game's bonus EX stages. It sounds fine. The Underworld, Sunny with a Chance of Oasis, and Crystal Dungeons all return from Return to Dreamland, and they sound good. Old Odyssey Stage 7 has a remix of Grape Garden seen in Kirby's Adventure. The Sky Tower from Return to Dreamland also returns, as does Kind's theme from Kirby's Dreamland 2, and the remix scene in Wild World Stage 7 is just very electric. Haldera's volcano theme is heard in Endless Explosion Stage 7, identical to what it sounded like in Return to Dreamland, so it sounds great. A slightly shortened version of Adventure Begins, also from that game, shows up on Stage 7 of Royal Road. Also in that stage is another Dimensions track. Limitless Power also shows up. Royal Road Stage 8. We hear a variant of Road to Victory from Return to Dreamland, as well as the Fountain of Dreams of Super Smash Bros. Melee fame. Cookie Country, the title theme from Return to Dreamland, also shows up in Kirby Fighters. That is basically the pre-fight menu theme of that game. It sounds amazing. Kirby Fighters also showcases the remixes of Castle Lolo's theme, and Dedede's original theme from Kirby's Dreamland shows up. Ku's Forest Battle theme from Kirby's Dreamland 2 shows up. The factory theme of Kirby 64 is heard in the Factory Tower stage. Kirby Fly theme heard in the fight against Shadow Kirby, which honestly is very cool and comes from Return to Dreamland, and both variants of the time for the results screen of that sub game also come from Return to Dreamland. Both sound great. All the remixes for D2D's Drum Dash sound good. It's a bit inferior to the originals due to the tempo timing. Waltz, Rush on the Railway Coaster, The Birthplace of Steel, and Techno Factory all also return from Return to Dreamland and sound as good as ever. But the best returning music has to be Mask to DD's theme, which is fully orchestral. It's honestly amazing, even getting a little bit of a techno vibe. I just love it. It's amazing, and it is an amazing return of a classic theme. Let us now discuss the new themes, for which there is plenty. The Cave in the Sky, first heard in Fine Field Stage 2, is just a very lively track that has a great rhythm to it. Then Old Odyssey Stage 3 has a very lively track that has an arrangement that is just a nice juxtaposition to it between the keys in A minor and the reminiscent to an unused track from Kirby's Dreamland 2. Hypernova Inhaled, the theme for the Hypernova, just sounds amazing. It's great. Really gets you pumped to eat someone. Mysterious Rolling Boulders from Afar is a long-named track heard in the third stage of Fine Fields. It's a very catchy theme. The first half in a very melodic way that starts with a flute arrangement in D minor, with the second adding more instruments, and it rises to a mode ending that has a very soothing feeling to it that I just deeply enjoyed. Dark Clouds is the theme heard before you fight a boss. It's deeply, brooding due to its very intense vibe, made possible by a percussion that never changes. Spring Smash Factory is a very upbeat, melodic G major track heard in Lollipop Land Stage 3. Reflected Laughter is the theme heard in the Haunted Circus levels, and honestly, it's very creepy. It has a sort of barb of playfulness thanks to the A minor usage and 4x4 tempo. Sky at Sunset is a very calm theme that is in F minor, only seen in the second and third stage of Old Odyssey. I don't really have much to say about it, but I think it's a very calming, well done theme. Old Odyssey, only heard in the fifth stage of Old Odyssey, is a very dismal and depressing one that is very much in line with an ancient forgotten ruin. Spinning Jungle, the main theme of Wild World, utilizes a very Clydean dominant mode, plus beats that remind me of a Tarzan movie. Golden Legend, the theme heard in the fourth and fifth stage of Wild World, has a very Egyptian vibe to it, sounding amazing. Mountain in an Angry Sky is just dubstep, which sounds very out of place, but it's, I guess, okay. Mysterious Trap heard in the third and fourth level of Endless Explosions is a very enigmatic musical track that's in C minor. Moonlight Capital, introduced in the first stage of Royal Road, is a great, very techno vibe to it. Beautiful Prison, heard in the fifth stage, is a very somber musical track that has a very irregular tempo that makes it seem very out of place, unusual, like you're not supposed to be here. One of the Miracles is another song that plays in the main staff credits roll. I like it. It's a very delicate Spanish feeling trait to it. Bouncing Boss Battles is the main boss theme, but it gives off a big bad jazz band orchestra thanks to a usage of double bass and clarinet. Good stuff. Revenge of the Enemy is heard while primarily fighting rematches against the bosses in Royal Road. It's not as memorable, but has a nice staccato. Sullied Grace is the theme for Queen Sectonia. It has a really deep regal vibe thanks to the usage of a pipe organ, and it comes off as a royal anthem corrupted by vanity and debauchery. Fatal Bloom in the Moonlight, while a step down in terms of final boss theme compared to Crown, does make the threat seem a lot bigger. The variant you hear while fighting Sectonia's Soul is a bit more energetic. Lastly is the World to Win, which you hear when fighting Sectonia with the Supernova. It is very triumphant. Overall, the OST of this game is solid. Now let us cover the many enemies Kirby shall face in this adventure. Alright, so starting with the common ability-less enemies, the returning ones include Waddle Dee, who also comes in a swinging vine variant. There's Como the Spider, Chip in his first 3D appearance, Cappy, Broom Hatter, Blipper, Kaboo, Big Kaboo, who has a minor redesign and looks more like a small castle, Barbar the Eel, Scarfy in a red variant called Key Scarfy that attacks you if you pick up a key, which are an item that can unlock certain doors. There's Squishy the Squid, Soror, Shotzo the Cannon, and its larger variant Gigantio, Degu, Krabby the Crab, Bronto Burt, Galunk, the Anemone, Gordos, Grizzo the Bear, Mumbies, Pacto, Shelt, and Nindu, not seen since Kirby's Dreamland 2, and can now disguise itself as both a door and a floor. There's also Key D, who in DX mode turns white and is much faster. In terms of new guys, there's a few variants of returning foes, such as Grand D, a large monkey-like variant of Waddle Dee that effectively is the big Waddle Dee of this game and the next few. There's Toughness Waddle Dee, who is this new variant that is a bright silver coloration and effectively fills the role of Mr. Sandbag in the training rooms that you use to train copy builders in. Sorry I forgot to mention those in my review of Kirby's Return to Dreamland, but I have not used those training rooms since my initial playthrough, and plus, that review is already long enough, but I just wanted to apologize for not including it there. There's also a Sectra variant of Waddle Dee, a Sectra Gordo. There's Sectra Burt, which is a variant of a Bronto Burt. There's a gigantic fire-spinning golden cobra called Burning Guardian that shoots fire Kirby, and it's really more of an obstacle/stage hazard. Same with the springy hands, which try to fire Kirby into the screen. Packflower is a planty variant of Pacto and seems to be based off an unused enemy from Return to Dreamland. Fanta is a ghost that vaguely looks like a Pokemon Dusk Skull. Spook Step is a ghost that walks. There's Ghost Gordo, who is basically a Gordo but with a single eye. Ghost dishes and ghost books are possessed items that will attack Kirby when he enters a room. There's a Manatee, which is basically a larger version of Blipper. The last new enemy is one that sort of blurs the lines between categories. Antlier is also called Bugs, which are these antidotes that Queen Sectonia can summon in her fight. There are 4 variants. The largest one, called Lord Antlier, which is of great size, has a Roman-esque crest, and the ability to shoot energy beams from its mace, gives no copy ability. Slightly smaller is the Red Antlier that shoots fireballs and gives fire. The Green Antlier, which is smaller still, shoots out electric balls and gives spark. Lastly is the smallest, the White Antlier, though he's actually quite blue in coloration, that gives ice and shoots out ice beams. But speaking of ice, let us talk about the copy ability bearing enemies, starting with the returning ones. There's Chili that gives ice, Brodon that gives wing, Blade, Knight that gives sword, Rocky that gives stone. There's Sir Kibble that gives Cutter, Searches that gives Crash, Sparky that gives Spark, Tick that gives Needle, Waddle Doo and its swinging variant that both give Beam, Hothead and Flamer that both give Fire, Poppy Brothers Jr. and Foley that give Bomb, Leafin that gives Leaf, Moonja that gives Ninja, Pierce that shows up for the last time, as does Lancer, who also gets a Sectra variant called a Sectra Knight, all of which would give Spear. There's Parasail Waddle Doo and Parasail Waddle Dee that both give Parasail, Whippy that gives Whip, Wheelie that gives Wheel, Naughty that gives Sleep, and there is Walkie that gives Mike. In terms of new guys that have copy abilities, there's only four. Beetlee is a cool little scarab guy that gives the beetle ability. Clown Acrobat is a very creepy clown that gives the circus ability. Ringo is a flying bell that gives the bell copy ability. Then there is a Spynam, a fedora-wearing mysterious humanoid that gives Archer and will try and shoot Kirby with a bow and arrow. There's also an insectoid variant called Sectra Shooter that looks even cooler. Now let's go on to the third category of enemies that are exclusive to this game, Hypernova common enemies. Firstly is Waddle Dee Train, that is a train with an adorable Waddle Dee face that rolls forwards trying to hit Kirby. Then there is Pipeworm, this unusual caterpillar slash chameleon thing that will try and bite at Kirby. And you have to wait until it shows its tail to slurp it up like a stir-fry piece of meat. Land Barbar is a bright pink variant of Barbar that will try and lunge at Kirby, but when it bites its tongue, it'll give you an opportunity to start sucking. And after a bit of a tug of war, you slurp up the beast like a Magneta spaghetti. Big Missile is a huge cannon that shoots out a constructed rocket that you have to suck up and spit back out at them in order to disable the construct. Lollipop Tank is a machine that you have to avoid while making sure it doesn't destroy your way to getting the collectibles of the stages they come in. A harder variant called Sectra Tank is in Royal Road Stage 1, 3, and 7. Luckily, this time, Hypernova actually destroys it, consuming it into oblivion, which honestly I find hilarious because he is so annoying in the stages. The Cannon Tower is a set of enemies that shoot out a missile that you have to suck up and hit the back that shoots out of. There's also this extra attack you can do, especially the last one, where it'll try and trick Kirby by trying to hit him with a spiky metal bar. Honestly, it's kind of fun, but very easy. Lastly is Ace Fanta, a ghost that shows up only in the third stage of Wild Woods that will possess a set of armor and try to bash Kirby with it, but can be inhaled afterwards. Spooky, if not particularly challenging. Before we go to the mini-bosses, there is a brief mention of side modes that is warranted. Kirby Fighters, they're all CPUs that are pretty much mindless, but DD's Drum Dash has a bit more than the main mode. There's Gordo, Bronto Burt, Scarfy, and Soror, and two that are unique to this specific mode, Bouncy and Sodori. But now let us go a step up and discuss the mini-bosses. Let us start with the returning ones, for which the majority are. Some, though, I have more to say about than others. Bonkers is back and functions much like he did in Return to Dreamland. The only minor addition being that he's now able to go between the background and foreground while twirling his hammer, which is kind of cool, honestly. This game's hard mode variants are called DX forms. Bonkers DX is basically the same as in Return to Dreamland, being a faster fight with darker, more reddish coloration. Bonkers gives hammer, in case you're curious. Gigant Edge is again a returning foe from Kirby's Return to Dreamland, and he functions like he did in that game, but now has a move called Sword Boomerang, where he flings the sword and it goes back and forth into the background and foreground and flies around the stage like a boomerang. The DX form is golden and attacks faster, with the boomerang sword now being accompanied with a shockwave that goes around the ground. He gives the sword ability, and honestly both of these guys are fine, I just don't have a lot to say about them. The next few returning foes have more significant changes. Grand Wheelie returns, seen last in Kirby Superstar Ultra, where now he has a large orange chassis with exhaust ports that are frankly really look cool. In terms of the fight, he can jump in place 3 times, try to run over Kirby, spin around releasing an attack of smog upon Kirby. He can throw nuts and bolts. Bolts generally bounce high and number 3 in terms of total count, while nuts will bounce low. He can zigzag back and forth out of the background, and if he hits a wall, he'll release a star he can suck up and spit back out at him. At half health, he can leap into the air and dive bomb like Kirby, and now doesn't really run into the wall as much. The DX is redder in coloration and has a more mechanical eye design. In terms of the fight, the DX form is tougher, faster, does more fake outs where he almost hits the wall only to turn around. He now can charge extra fast and can dive in the air twice. Obviously, he gives wheel. Blocky returns, not seen since Kirby's Dreamland 3, and now it has a far more detailed design that is darker gray with smaller gray and dark colored rocks around the main form. In terms of attack, he has what he had back in Dreamland 3, and then he'll try and slam Kirby and charge into him. But he has some new ones as well. First, he has Dice Rush, which has him roll like a dice, attempting to crush Kirby, and he will crush him if he hits him. He can temporarily turn invulnerable, and lastly, he can float into the background and try and slam Kirby with his face. The DX form is a lighter tan color with reddish and green colored rocks surrounding it. He can now turn into stone after charging to avoid slamming into the wall. He spins in the air before slamming down, able to reposition a little bit. The dice attack can now climb walls and will now try and slam Kirby from the background up to 3 times. He gives the stone ability. The DX form of Blocky has a much more tannish coloration, as well as some nice green and red highlights. He can now climb onto the wall while doing the dice attack, and he'll now slam his face twice while in the background. Mr. Frosty returns, not seen since Kirby Superstar Ultra, and he functions mostly similar to how he did before, as he'll try and grab Kirby to spin him out, as well as to spit out ice that he'll chuck at Kirby. The only new move is that now he can do sort of an ice twirl that allows him to go in and out of the background and foreground. The DX form is faster, will now do more of those ice attacks. He has a more colorful suit. His mouth is black and green feet. It's mostly the same, though. All I can say is I really find his return was handled well, and he gives ice in case you're curious. Now let's go on to the entirely new faces. First up is Fire Galboros. It is effectively a fiery lava variant of Water Galboros from Return to Dreamland, but it has some interesting charm to it. It can hop around, shoot up to 3 fireballs, lob fire bubbles, set itself on fire, and charge. The DX form has gone from red to black, and his scales have turned purple. It is much faster now, can shoot more fireballs. It can also even try and grab and spit at Kirby. He does a very interesting circular fire attack. Obviously, in case you couldn't tell, he gives fire, and I think he's a cool encounter. Lastly, we have my favorite of all of the standard mini-bosses, and my favorite new one. We got Hornhead here, who gives Beetle. This is a fairly large rhinoceros beetle-type creature that can rush at Kirby, try to pick him up / impale him with his horns, and then try and toss him. He can do a flurry of strikes with his horn. At half health, he'll start flying and can shoot beams from his horn. A cutter beam up to 3 times. His DX form has a color scheme that reminds me of the real-life Hercules beetle, Dynasty's Hercules, and is capable of flying and combining multiple attacks in clever ways that keep you on your feet even when he's not at half health. There is a second category of mini-bosses that are associated with Hypernova. These Hypernova mini-bosses are very notable. First is the Mowgli brothers, a set of giant moles who attack Kirby. The first one is orange with a cyan visor that tosses dirt boulders and is rather slow when it comes to doing anything, so it can easily be hit. The second bro is red with a yellow visor, a bit faster. He can even try and dupe you with a decoy, and he'll laugh at you if you hit it. The third brother is purple with a mohawk and a red visor. He can pop out of 2 holes and is even faster. In the rematch against the mini-bosses involving the Hypernova during Royal Road Stage 8, a fourth variant who is black and has red gloves will show up, and you can toss both dirt balls and lava bombs, which you can't inhale and have to dodge. It's fun, if a bit easy. Next, we got Gigant Chicks, a set of three birds that you have to utilize these large terms or introduced in the same level of Old Odyssey to knock them out. The green one is relatively stationary and will attack you on occasion. It's very easy to hit. The blue one moves around a bit more and can be a little harder to hit. The purple one is the fastest and can get kind of annoying as he will rarely, if ever, stay still long enough to attack Kirby. And, it's a little harder, but not that hard. It's still genuinely a fun encounter. Then there is the Waddle Dee Steel Fortress, which is manned by Waddle Dees, or in the Royal Road rematch, it's manned by Sector Dees. It will shoot out missiles that you must hit these support beams with 3 times. But it moves a great deal faster, so it can be a little hard to hit. And it'll also occasionally release an iron spiny rod that it'll try and hit you with. Then there is King Fanta, that is effectively a larger variant of the Ace Fanta with a very elaborate crown. He possesses several things. First is a vase that rushes at you in a horizontal manner. Then there's a cuckoo clock that swoops down at you. Then a portrait that does the same thing, but you can only inhale it when he's visible. And lastly, a piano that pulls a Super Mario 64 and starts trying to maul you to death with its teeth. It's honestly one of the most memorable mini-bosses of the whole game. And last of the mini-bosses are the Winged Eggers, a sort of quadrilogy of little dragon dudes that carry shields and will try and breathe fire and shoot boulders at you. You have to be careful to hit them at the right time. It's not as visually memorable, but it's fairly fun. Now let us go up another step and lastly discuss the bosses of the game. I'm going to do things a bit differently and discuss them in order of how you fight them rather than dividing them between new and old. I want to see if that flows better. If it doesn't, feel free to comment. But first we got Flowery Woods, a flower enhanced by Tyranza's dark magic, and one look at the design, you can clearly tell it's meant to be the Wispy Woods encounter of the game. However, it is arguably more versatile than any Wispy Woods before, and more aggressive. The first phase is relatively simple. It'll drop pollen bullets, which are these basically apples, and air bullets he'll spit out at Kirby up to 6 times. The second phase sees him grow in size and jump into the background. From there, he can drop up to 6 grains of pollen at this point that pounce into the foreground and can be spit back out at him. Air bullets can also be breathed from the background. More notable is some special new attacks. The flower boomerang attack has him shoot out 4 blossoms from the background, which will try and hit Kirby, but can be swallowed for the copy ability known as Cutter. The stomp jump maneuver has him jump into the air and try and crush Kirby, growing in size sometimes, and can either target Kirby or just jump left to right in a relatively unorganized manner. Lastly is the growth root maneuver, where he will, while in the background, dig into the ground with his roots that will then try and hit Kirby, and they can come in either 2 flavors. Either it'll be 2 huge roots that will try and crush him, and in another case, he'll have them all come off one of the sides. Honestly, it's more engaging than any Wispy boss fight before. Flowery Woods DX has a darker reddish hue, purple roots, and darker green leaves. In terms of attacks, his first phase can now do growth roots maneuver with the same variance as last phase, but a new one that has him rotate like a helicopter and try and hit Kirby. Pollen bullets can now include up to 2 Gordos. Air bullets are purplish in color and will split off into several when they reach where the player is. The second phase introduces the stomp jump, where he will now always increase in size and try and crush Kirby. The flower boomerang is higher in number and will now home in on the player. Again, not too hard, but overall I think Flowery Woods is a good encounter. It's definitely the best Wispy Woods fight so far, and the DX form adds a little more spice. Next, we got Paintra, an evil painting brought into the living by Tyranza's dark magic, and she has a solid design. The paint brushes for feet. In terms of fight attacks, with magic spheres, it fires 3 or more energy orbs. With painting view technique, Paintra covers sections of the screen with paint. The brush swipe technique has her swing her feet at the player. Paint bullets has her fly into the background and spin globs of paint at the player before then painting the screen with some globs, thereby obscuring your vision. Paint Barrage has Paintra spin and fire rapid paint bursts towards the ground. Glide Attack sees her fly into the background and then try to dive into the player. The second phase not only makes her more erratic, it adds 2 more attacks. The hide and seek technique has her summon a giant canvas to cover the background, flying behind it and trying to hit Kirby. Trick Point is the most mechanically complex, where she paints a series of items, only one of which is fake and the other 2 will attack. These include an iron ball, a spiked metal drill rods, Landra that breathes fire, and Paintra herself clones and cannons. Paintra DX's form is generally darker in color with blue ribbons and purple hair. In terms of changes, the magic sphere shoots out 7 or more energy orbs. The paint bullet move shoots more. The paint barrage, brush, snipe, and glide are all significantly faster and done more times. The painting view obscures more of the view of the player. The second phase is mostly the same as base Paintra, though it has a new attack, Circling Brush, that sees her twirl around and try and ram into the player. The Trick Paint has some visual changes, like the balls are spiked and the Landra is now in her EX form. Overall, Paintra is a great fight. A little harder than Wispy, but not too hard, and genuinely a great callback to Dracia. The third world's boss Krakow makes his debut in the modern era, with a design that frankly perfectly captures Krakow's look while adding a little bit of extra fluff. His horns are now orange to green instead of just plain yellow, but overall it's a good incarnation of the character in a 3D model. In his first phase, he will use Descending Rain to send down a torrent of rain when he turns blue. If you have Paracel, you can completely avoid taking damage from this attack. With enemy drop, he summons a Waddle Doo that can give beam. With Beam Whip, he summons a swirl of energy attacks. Body Blow has him dash across the stage. Lightning Drop sees him become darker and unleash lightning bolts moving across the area. Upon reaching half health, his eyes turn red and he clears the background of clouds. He'll also start using the technique Longhorn, where he grows 2 long horns that he will try and ram Kirby with, going from one side to the other and back. Cross Thunder has him shoot out lightning bolts of large size, first horizontally, then vertically, and lastly cross-shaped. The lightning ball technique has him on a different plane shoot a barrage of lightning orbs at Kirby. Super lightning ball technique is similar but has him fire a single huge orb that kind of reminds me of the Spirit Bomb. Lastly is Disastrous Thunder from the sky, long name for a technique where he turns gray and shakes, releasing a lot of items like a Paracel, Waddle Dee, and a canyon you have to use to escape the part of the stage you're on, as this attack will cover the entire stage if you don't dodge it. Krakow DX has that off-colored green color you see before a big storm, as well as fewer but larger spines. This enemy now has several new and modified techniques. For example, the enemy drop now drops 2 random objects as well as Waddle Doo. Lightning Bolt and Body Blow techniques are both faster. Beam Whip is now done twice in a row. Now he can do the Cross Thunder technique in the first phase, which itself is faster and will fire all of the large bolts at the same time at the end. Upon entering into the second phase, he has the same Disastrous Thunder from the Sky technique. The longhorn technique can now be done from the foreground and background in various other ways. He also moves the horns more dynamically. The lightning ball technique is slightly different in pattern and faster in speed. Lastly, there's the super lightning ball technique that leaves a electric residue behind. Overall, this is an amazing return of a classic foe that I really enjoyed fighting. The boss of World 4 Wild World is Coily Rattler. In terms of design, it is perhaps the most unique of the entirely new faces, being a statue of a snake done in the Mayan / vaguely Egyptian style. Its whole body evokes a sort of beaded necklace appearance. The head is distinctly unarmored in a copperish color that is a reference to the copperhead, Angistrodon contortrix. In terms of the fight itself, he can slither around like a snake. He has the fireball technique, which has him spit out 3 burning rocks or fireballs at Kirby that can be sucked up to be spit back out at him or digested for the fire ability. The spiral attack sees him jump into the air and crash down at the player. Whiptail sees him slither up to Kirby and attempt to whip him with his Rattler. Wheel has him turn into a wheel shape and roll like Kirby. He can turn around and roll back, though this is only really common in the second phase. The second phase at half health has him slither in a wrapping manner that makes it harder for him to be hit. With his bite capture, he appears at the top of the screen and tries to bite Kirby. If successful, he drags him around the stage for severe damage. With his donut attack, he will turn into a loop and go around the stage on fire. Perhaps most extravagant is his disassembled body technique, which has him rotate around a column in the background, separating into several pieces that fall upon Kirby. The DX form, now silver and grayish in coloration. Its head now has horns, which is a reference to various snake species like the desert horned viper, Cerastes. In terms of the fight, I consider him to be much faster. The spiral attack has him jump more. He'll shoot 5 fireballs from more positions than the regular fight. His whiptail attack does a lot more strikes. The second phase introduces the Rattler wheel, but it moves faster and turns around much more. The donut attack will pause midway to try and home in on the player. He will do a fake out a few times to try and trip him up during his bite attack, and the disassembled body attacks is faster overall. I love this. It's a fair challenge and really just a very remarkable and memorable boss fight in the Kirby series due to how tall it is. Next up, we got Pyribbit, the boss of the 5th world, Endless Explosion. Its name is a fun combination of Pyro and Ribbit. I like the design, even if it's probably the most forgettable of the entirely new guys, as it's just sort of a big fat lava frog that kind of reminds me of the Fatty Puffer fight from, Kirby's Return to Dreamland. He will try to attack Kirby in his first phase using his Flame Ring attack, which has him hop towards Kirby, creating a ring of fire. Lava Bomb has him spit out several large boulders, which Kirby can inhale for fire or will explode eventually, leaving a lingering burning spot. Bound Press has him ricochet around the arena. His predation maneuver has him pop out of the lava and try to chameleon tongue Kirby to death. The second phase has him become more numerous in his bound press attacks and toss more bombs in his lava bomb attack. It also introduces several new attacks, such as Flamethrower, where he breathes like a flamethrower, blackening parts of the screen with char. That can be a bit annoying at points. Fountain of Fire has him spit out streams of fire like a water fountain. It's not that hard to dodge. Magma Monster has him summon magma-like pillars that will then charge over towards Kirby, and you have to dodge it. The Volcanic Rock attack has him jump into the background volcano, and alongside some large lava boulders, rains down on the stage. The DX version is a lot greener in coloration, and he gets angry because DDD accidentally trips and drops his hammer on him, which, to be fair, I'd be angry at too. In the first phase, he's a lot faster. He does a lot more jumps in his bound press, just more erratic overall. The fire ring attack unleashes two more rings instead of just one, and his predation move is faster, and he does it twice, not giving up after just one. Lava bombs are now multiple in terms of number, and they're much harder to dodge than in the base form. His second phase is mostly similar to the base fight. The Magma Man monster attack can, hide to trick the player and move around a lot more. The flamethrower is much larger, his fountain lasts longer, and the volcanic rock attack just lasts longer and is a lot more intricate. Overall, it's a somewhat challenging encounter. Personally, I didn't find it as hard as Coily Rattler, and he's honestly my least favorite of all the bosses of the game. It's still fun, it just, in terms of a design, it's not as memorable. The pre-ultimate fight, however, is the polar opposite. Masked DDD, who has been brainwashed by Tyranza to attack Kirby. I went into obscene detail about this fight in my 2022 Christmas special, going over all the DDD fights in the series, but while the first phase is a pretty faithful recreation of Superstar Ultra's fight, as you have to deal with his mecha hammer that can shoot missiles and even a flamethrower, the main addition here is a hypernova inhale that has been clearly enhanced by the dark magic of Tyranza. After his first defeat, his hammer is broken, but Tyranza powers him up. Now purple and only bearing half a mask, he plucks an axe from a nearby area and swings it like a madman, spinning like a tornado, even flying off the stage only to get dizzy, offering a rare chance to hit him. He also does a lot more powerful variants of some of the attacks I mentioned before, and he'll shoot energy orbs or play energy tennis with Tyranza. Honestly, I love this encounter. It's the right mixture of new and old that is a fair challenge and a love letter to DDD's fights of the past. I absolutely adore the music here. Just an awesome fight. It doesn't have a DX form, not strictly. There is an analog, but we'll return to that later. Queen Sectonia is the final boss, and as you can tell, it's inspired by Wasp, and frankly, her design beautifully captures the dangerous trickery seen in that clade, best exemplified by parasitic wasps. Her first phase has her fight on the hall, with a high amount of moves, such as Rush, which sees her transform her staffs into rapiers that she slashes with first right, then a left slash, then both at the same time. Lightning Strike has her fire black lightning from one of her silver rods. The silver rod shot has her fire 3 orbs of purple energy. Flying Attack has her use dual rapiers to do cross slashes at Kirby. The continuous thrust attack has her thrust the rapiers rapidly. Lastly, with a brightness ring, she goes into the background and summons a ring that she'll then try to fly into Kirby with. She then goes back into the background and tosses 3 large rings at the player. Interestingly enough, DDD, while unconscious, will dodge them as well somehow. And then she tosses you to a large gemstone. This is phase 2, and you begin once you remove a third of her health. She gets several new attacks, such as the ring shot, which has her toss rings at Kirby from the foreground. She can summon antlers, as well as the returning lightning strikes, continuous thrust attacks, rush, and flying attacks, all of which are more erratic and quicker than before. Phase 3 sees you return to the throne room as she destroys the gym she put you on last time. It's mostly the same, but even more erratic and aggressive, with her not hesitating to even hurt the antlers that I mentioned earlier that she'll summon, and just plain old teleport spam. Queen Sectonia DX is a much brighter coloration and is generally reddish pink, and I kind of like it a little more than the base design. Her attacks are mostly the same, just faster. She still has 3 phases, with the most notable addition being the silver rod shot can now shoot 5 orbs instead of 3. A minor change to an honestly excellent fight that is frankly the best in the game, but both thematically and in terms of gameplay, even if it's not my necessarily favorite. Upon defeat, Sectonia fuses with the Dreamstalk to become Flowered Sectonia. In terms of design, it's rather beautiful, though in an evil way, like she's a parasite upon it, which fits since she is a wasp. The first phase, however, summons a wall of vines to protect itself. You use a cannon provided by the people of the sky and manned by DDD, and you use gyro controls to hit these eyes. You have to be careful, though, as you take damage if you hit the vines themselves or if they're closed, and they will shoot a laser Kirby if you're not fast enough. Honestly, it's a little annoying due to the controls. I don't normally have issues with the gyroscope, but for some reason this fight always gives me a little trouble with it. Then we shall encounter Sectonia, who sends out these odd eye bulb things that you have to deal with first to get close enough to her to do a direct attack. The eye bulbs can fire coconuts at Kirby in a fast manner using floral fire bullets. These can be inhaled to get the fire ability. Floral Sword sees these eye bulbs grow swords that just sort of slice at Kirby. Giant Nuts see the eye bulbs turn into spiny balls that try to hit Kirby. Floral Bomb has these things drop explosive coconuts that you can inhale to give bomb. The Floral Spark has them shoot out these electric seeds from above that can give you the spark ability. The Floral Cannon has them shoot out lasers that can be highly damaging if you don't dodge them in time. There's Floral Cutter that sees them rotate quickly and dive forwards, trying to cut them like a cutter blade. After defeating a set of eye bulbs, Sectonia will blow an updraft that brings him closer. Seems a little, self-defeating. Like, why would you want him to be closer? But, I don't know, she's clearly gone mad. The last set of eyes number in 4 and have several unique attacks. Giant Nut Launch has Sectonia suck up all the eye bulbs to her and launch them either to bounce low to the ground or bounce high up. It can be a little annoying to dodge, but it's fun. Floral Ray Quartet has the 4 eye bulbs position themselves in a diamond shape and charge electricity from them. Death Bloom has Sectonia charge up a huge laser. Floral Tackle has the eye bulbs go into the background before trying to ram into Kirby. Lastly, Floral Ray Duet has them go into groups of 2 and charge electric fields between themselves. This is it for the arena, but Story Mode has an exclusive final phase, using the Hypernova to deal with a barrage of missiles and ending with a huge laser battle that you have to fight to inhale. After sucking up it and even the huge health bar that Sectonia has, you annihilate her. While I will say to my dying breath that Magolor has the better music and the best final music of any boss fight, I have to say that this really is a step up in every way. She has more forms, her attacks are a lot more varied. Queen Sectonia is an amazing final boss. But is she? Well, in DDD's tour, we see there are 2 figures after beating Sectonia's first form. First step up is Shadow DDD, who is effectively the DX version of Mask DDD, especially the first phase, which, outside of being generally faster and with more health, it's mostly the same. The second phase, however, is where stuff gets weird. First, using the darkness inside his sad soul, he summons an X. He's also able of opening his stomach like a mouth akin to the Thing and will shoot out blasts. It's a very great encounter that, while I don't necessarily have much to say about because it's a slightly harder version of DDD, it really helps fill a gap that was always present since The Amazing Mirror. Because if you remember, in that game, there was no King DDD fight at all. There was no Shadow DDD, as it were, in the same way there was like a Dark Meta Knight. The final encounter in DDD Tour is against Dark Meta Knight, who is out for revenge, seemingly having corrupted the mirror world and filling the void left by Dark Mind. In terms of attacks, there is a simple slash where he slashes 3 times in a row. Crescent Shot has him shoot crescent shots at Kirby, either one faster or 3 slow moving ones. Hyper Rush Crescent is when he does it after doing multiple slashes. Glide Sword has him thrusting his sword while gliding from the background. Up Thrust when he, thrusts upward when you're above him. And he can thrust downwards as well if you're beneath him, though that's rather rare. Spin Slash has him perform a horizontal spin slash type technique. Piercing Slash has him thrust a sword towards the player. Final Sword Beam has him jump up and pound the earth with his sword, leaving a shockwave that travels across the arena. Tornado has him spin like a tornado that'll hurt you if you get touched by it, while he can also summon a giant tornado to attack. Blade Burst has him jumping into the air and summoning a few giant mirror-like swords. In the second phase, he does now 2 sets of 3 crescent shots, as well as some new techniques. With 3D Tornado, he goes into the background and summons 3 massive tornadoes. And lastly, with Mirror Division, he divides himself into 3 clones, one of which is real, and shuffle around. If you hit the wrong one, it will break into pieces that home in on the player. But hitting the real deal does double damage due to him some reason lowering his defense in this fight. Overall, I think this is a great reimagining of a forgotten foe from Kirby's Dark Age. Last but not least, we got the true final boss, the final one you fight in the true arena. After beating Dark, Meta Knight, Shadow, DDD, and Sectonia DX. Then there is the soul of Sectonia. That's the official name. Honestly, I think she should have been called Sectonia's Soul, and I see other people call her that, but regardless, the first phase is basically a DX mode of flowered Sectonia, with a deep blue set of petals, some of which look like wings, foreshadowing. In addition to the stuff from that fight, which is faster, new attacks include how she can summon Lord Antlers and try to impale Kirby with vines. The second phase sees her rip herself from the Dreamstalk somehow, and she now can teleport spam, summon Ateliers, shoot vines out. The floral cannons have her shoot lasers from portals shaped like flowers. She can turn into giant globs of paint via Splash Rush. Man, isn't that familiar? With Shooter Cutter, she shoots 4 cutter blades. I wonder where we've seen that before. And these can give the cutter ability. Lastly, with Deadly Bound, she turns into a giant fireball meteor that bounces around and tries to hit Kirby. It's a really fun encounter, a bit derivative, and is just a really notable final boss. Now let's go into the completion requirements and my final thoughts on this game. Alright, so in order to complete this game, at first it seems fairly normal. Collect all 100 Sunstones. This game's version of Energy Spheres, which are hidden in each stage, anywhere from 1 to 4. As well as the large Grand Sunstones that you get from beating each of the first 5 bosses that unlocks the following, world. Then beat the final boss of the game, complete DDD Tour, the arena, and True Arena at least once. You have to beat all stages of DDD's Drum Dash. I got all the platinum because I'm extremely dedicated to that, but honestly, you don't have to. You just have to beat it once for completion requirements. Though real Kirby fans always try and go for platinum, at least in my experience. A little more tedious is how you have to beat Kirby Fighter's single player mode with all 10 copy abilities. A bit mindless, but if you want to get through it quick, I always do it on the lowest difficulty just to get it over with. And you should probably do that as well. However, the real challenge comes from the last collectible of this game, keychains. There are a total of 256 of these little goobers in two varieties. There's a normal one that is silver/blue, comes usually multiple in one level, and you have to kind of collect multiple of them, and a rare keychain for which there is one hidden in each level, and each is unique and memorizes some iconic character/object in the Kirby series. I don't think it's needed to go over how to find each of these, as honestly finding them is a huge part of the game and I don't want to ruin that for you, but some highlights include the Dark Matter Swordsman, Nightmare, the Power Paintbrush, Dark Mind, Masked DDD, and Kaboo. The last four rare keychains for the last four levels are the most notable, being entirely unique for the most part artwork. Yin Yarn was never a sprite before. Macalor did in fact cameo as a golden statue for the Kirby Dream Collection Special Edition, which overlapped in development. And lastly is Taranza and the Queen Sectonia. Honestly, I think they're all really cool, and I would love to see more modern Kirby enemies and characters in sprite form. I think it's really nice. Though all are cool, sadly you will likely have to grind a bit to get the last few common keychains. I suggest doing the second level of the first world. It's short and has the most keychains within it for that shortness. And, it might get a little repetitive, but I like the little detail of how your rank increases as you get more. From 1 to 24, you're an amateur collector. From 25 to 49 keychains, you become a fairweather collector. From 50 to 99, you are a keychain hunter. From 100 to 149, you are a Dreamland bandit. From 150 to 199, you are a Kirby maniac. From 200 to 249, you are given the rank of a legendary collector. From 250 to 255, you are a superstar collector, and when you reach 256, you are a keychain master. So yeah, a bit much, but I don't know, I enjoyed 100% completing it. I think you will too, if only to get the absolute most out of the game. Though if you really want to, you don't necessarily have to get all the keychains. Though if you do, you'll see them show up on your menu in both random and preset ways. Overall, and in conclusion, what are my final thoughts? Well, I think that while yes, Return to Dreamland is still my favorite due to nostalgia, this game is an upgrade in nearly every regard. The level design and graphic design is more original for one. I think that the Hypernova is a much more involved and interesting gimmick than the Super Builders were, with a lot more variety, because admittedly the Super Builders were kind of just you press the button and won. Here, however, you actually have to put a little effort into it. The new copy builders are all fun, and I deeply just enjoyed going to revisit this game to play it and review it. Sadly, there's only the original release for the 3DS, but it's luckily still rather cheap due to not being that old. And I think you should play it at least once. It's a great time and probably one of the best Kirby games ever made. I'm the Dark Master. If you liked this video, like it, but if you loved it, consider subscribing and sharing the video out. I'm the Dark Master, and join me next time on my video game reviews. Take care and have a wonderful day.